Greetings, everyone. This is Nick with ZeroTechnologies.net LLC for Desolate Star. If you've been hanging out on the Indie Game Devs group on Facebook, you saw this earlier. I've been working on implementing the latest mechanic, the terminals, into Desolate Star that I've been posting several Fallout 4 terminal series videos about. Ran into, as you can see, a violent number of bugs over the last couple of days. But they're all done, so just a little bit of fun there. So now, essentially what we have built, what I've built rather, there's no we, it's just me. What I've got done here is the, basically there's a raycast coming off of the player. When you hit the terminal, that raycast fires a trigger in the code and lets the player essentially interact with the terminal. I took that same mechanic just a step further. I'm gonna go ahead and start the game up, let it run, and go ahead and go over here. I took the same mechanic just a little bit further, where you can actually use it to look at and pick up items instead of just running over them. Items that are on the ground, the player will obviously be able to just walk over and pick up. This mechanic has been displayed several times before. I don't really feel the need to do it again. But what I've added, and I apologize for the lag, the video is a little bit laggy. So I've added a raycast specifically for item pickup, and then one for the terminal as well, but we'll get over to the terminal here in a second. As you can see while the raycast is over it, the text on the left, just above your battery life, O2 and all that stuff, tells you what you're looking at. In this case, a battery. That's it. Bam. You can pick it up. It's in your inventory. So you hit your interact key, which by default will be set to tab. You hit your interact key and it picks it up, and that's it. So for the terminal, it's essentially the same thing. You're looking at it, you see press interact to use terminal. So we do that, and it brings up the terminal. And it's got some basic information there. As the game develops, I will alter, I'll have to alter the code to respond to which terminal the player is actually looking at. This particular terminal being the terminal in the player's ship and how they got there, isn't probably going to have a whole lot in it. Maybe some journal entries, maybe some power controls, some basic tutorial information, some hotkey information, just some things that the player can look at and do and get familiar with the game itself. So I've got some basic commands in there. I still have the bad commander file name. I've got a couple other hi and hello commands. I also added a good old clear screen, and I've also added, you can hit enter and it'll give a new line, and I've also added the glorious scroll rect, which, if I can find my mouse, ooh, new bug, cool. So when the canvas opens, it's supposed to ensure that the mouse is unlocked from the center, and then essentially let you move the mouse around the screen so you can use the scroll bar. So that being locked right now, because apparently I have a bug, it's not going to work. So to get out of it, since this is bugging right now, we have the exit, close, by, QQ, various other commands that will close the terminal, and then we can move around just fine. So that's pretty much it. That's all I've gotten added, but I had never done several of the mechanics that are in the game now. I had never done raycasting before. I had never done input fields before, especially multi-line. So all of that was new to me, and that was kind of fun learning that. So that terminal is going to be there. I'm going to probably take this terminal away. I feel it's kind of redundant to have two terminals on one spaceship with one person. So don't see the point of that one. I'm going to take that one away. This will be the ultimate prefab with the target. See, as you can look at it. Now, I will say this that I learned. Let me pause this and switch monitors over here again. So I did learn a couple of things. If I can find it real quick here, I will show you guys what I'm talking about. Get to the right part of the code. Alright, so right here. So several of the tutorials that I found and the information in the docs basically just had the raycast shooting from the camera, which is fine. This is basically to extend out to the center point of the screen, and that's it. It starts from the main camera, and it goes along a new vector, which is half the screen and screen width and half the screen height, which is the center point of your screen completely. So really, with this right here, I don't technically need to hide or lock the mouse. Locking the mouse is not really recommended because it does stop the player from, like you saw earlier, clicking other items in the game. It also can cause other problems with other Windows games and things like that nobody wants to deal with. So I will work on removing that completely. But anyway, here's the rest of it for the. This is strictly for the terminal. This will probably actually be taken out at some point or altered to move over to our inventory controller. But if the raycast collider ray hits anything, if it hits something, it's going to send that information to hit, which is declared up here, raycast hit. This 2 is essentially 2 units in Unity. The ray only goes out about 2 units. And let me click over back to Unity, and you will see in the editor window you see the cyan line right there, that blue line. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Let me kind of zoom over there if I can. Come on. Alright, there we go. Yeah, we can definitely see that now. So, whoops, let me click on my player. So right here, this cyan blue line, that's our debug line for the inventory controller, which I was testing last, and that's why it's turned on. But that is roughly 2 units in Unity. It's a pretty good distance. It's higher than the capsule player is tall. So it's long enough for it to work. I had 4 there, and it was just, I don't know, it was too much. You were like interacting with the terminal from almost 10 feet away, so 10 visual feet away. We've got some verification debugs and such going on there. Basically, I'm using a Boolean trigger here. When this is true, it's going to fire all of the terminal controllers later on in the script. And then it's going to update the output text with some information. And that's just for the item, obviously. This is the terminal piece here, which is the only part on this script that it actually does anything. This right here, generally useless for right now, because all of that is for the items anyway. It's being handled in our item script. So I did have to kind of play with some triggers, some booleans and things like that. It took me a little bit longer than I would have liked to admit to get that working. But so basically, I wanted to say if the raycast hit anything or not, we need to set our triggers true or false. Unfortunately, I had all of this up here, and it really wasn't working because it's not the right place. Basically, what this right here says, if the ray that's extending from the player hits something, send that information to raycast hit. Well, the Boolean here says if it's not hitting anything, like saying if it's hitting something, else if it's not hitting something, do this. Set these triggers to false, and it stops output text and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it for that. There's not really anything else necessarily to show off. That's pretty much where I am at with Desolate Star at the moment. I've got to make some obvious corrections to the mouse controller, but that is the essentially the culmination of the Fallout 4 terminal series, is getting this bad boy to work. I've got a lot of expanding to do and a lot of graphical updating to do on this. I will probably treat this like I did the inventory system and turn off all of the other layers that are not the UI layer for this screen. I'll probably turn off all the other layers so that all you see is the monitor. I know that Fallout 4 does it a little bit differently. They show the terminal and the physical location where the player is actually at. Unfortunately, I don't really like that design necessarily. I prefer a full screen terminal like what you see there. It's a lot easier to see. It's a lot like this is actually font size 14, which is the default when you create an input field. And I feel that even on my monitors, which aren't very large, I think there are 23-inch monitors, widescreen monitors. I have 3, but this is on one monitor. What you're seeing right now, obviously, it's on one monitor. It's plenty big enough. It's clear. I don't really see a need to necessarily change anything to make it larger or any more specific. But the way that Fallout 4 did it, I will actually go see if I can find that image real quick. Fallout 4 terminal. Okay. All right, this is a good example of what I'm talking about here. See how there's the terminal right here and then the background environment around it. I don't mind it for Fallout 4. It's not so bad, but for my game, I don't really want to do this. I prefer full screen. You can see the entire terminal. It's very, very clear. Now, mind you, this image is a crap image. It's very low res. I don't know who screenshot it or whatever, but it's not a very good image. But let me see if I can find a higher res one. It might make a little more sense. This is pretty good. This is apparently from PlayStation 4. I have not played it on console, so I have no idea what it looks like. So some of these are pretty good screenshots. Some of them are just crap because it really does depend on who's taking the screenshot. So that's a pretty decent picture right there. So I mean, it's pretty high res. But again, you can kind of see there's the terminal that the player is actually trying to hack into. And then they mouse their cursor over like robbers or looks like they've already hacked most of this. Popular right there. There's also some like reset codes like the 2 curly brackets right here. That would do something. The 2 arrow brackets right here. You mouse over the first one, it would do something. It's pretty involved. I won't be doing anything like this for Desolate Star. I don't mind the hacking game in Fallout 4. I just don't really feel the need necessarily to do it for my game. There will be password protected consoles and things like that, sure, but I have other ideas for that kind of stuff. So this is my terminal right now for Desolate Star. I'll probably shrink it down just a little bit to get some good background graphics of what a terminal would look like. It's still got the same close button in the top right. It's got our general welcome when you log into the terminal. That happens every time you log into the terminal, so that's nothing new. And as time goes by, like I said, I'll have to add specific code based on the terminal that the user is interacting with. Like Terminal 1, Terminal Space Pod, Terminal Space Station, Terminal Power Area, whatever. Each terminal is obviously going to have to be uniquely coded, but it is what it is. There's not really a lot of good ways I can think of to do it dynamically to span across different purposes. So there's that. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's the end of the Fallout 4 Terminal series. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll try to answer them the best that I can. I am a very new programmer. I've only been doing Unity game development for about 1 year and 3 months now. And this is as far as I've gotten with Desolate Star. It seems like a lot to me, but for others, they may look at it and be like, dude, you're a loser, stop now, which is not going to happen. But I've only gotten about 1 year and 3 months into C# programming with Unity, so I'm not as good as some of the other programmers on the Facebook groups. I highly recommend those groups, but ask logical questions because, you're asking for people's time. So ask logical questions, do your research, Google, YouTube. Unity Docs is a great place to look for information if you don't know what you're doing. Always read the documentation, especially with software. Other than that, ask questions if you have any. I will do the best I can to answer them. Feedback is always welcome. I think the next mechanic that I really want to work on, I really have been aching for a long time to do a build mechanic. So in various survival games, including Fallout 4, which I consider a survival action story game, RPG, whatever, you can build things. You can put platforms next to each other. They click lock to each other. You can build buildings, and they have purpose. Subnautica is a really good example of amazing base building, by the way. It's a great game. Love it. If you haven't picked it up, definitely do that. Or, like go watch Markiplier play it. It's a really freaking amazing game. Things like that. So I will probably muck around with that for a few days and see if I can get some basic mechanics working with the assets that I have now. I'm not really big on the assets that I have being capable of what I want to do, but I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do it. So they may work just fine. I don't know. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Definitely watch the other Desolate Star videos. Tell me how you feel the game is progressing. If you have any ideas, solutions to problems you've seen in my videos or bugs, definitely comment on those. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of the week and upcoming Valentine's Day. Just want to give a shout out to my lovely woman, Becca. I love you more than you know, and thank you for always supporting me, especially when you have no idea what I'm talking about in my video games. I love you, and thank you very much. Y'all have a great week.